This is going to be a short one. There's just a cool effect I saw, and I wanted to recreate it and do an overview of how it could possibly be done. I'm not sure if this is how they did it, but it's one of the ways to do it. It's this really cool kind of moving pillar effect. And whenever you move, the pillars go down, but when you stop, things kind of stop moving to kind of give it the sense that everything's reacting to the player's movement, which is really cool. So what you need in order to get this done, you need to put a sphere around the player. This sphere you set to overlap all dynamic, and then in the movement you're going to attach to the movement if either of these are more than one, or if I set it to if the player's falling. So if it felt like I wanted the cubes to move if the player was just falling, even if they weren't moving around. And if that's true, then go ahead and set the collision to be enabled. And if it's not true, go ahead and set the sphere to no collision. So that's how I toggle it. The actual sphere, or the pillar itself, is just this cube. The collision box itself is set. It doesn't actually scale. It's just quite large, so the player can always hit it regardless of how tall or short the pillar is. And then the cube itself is just a normal cube, though it does have a scene at the bottom here, so that way I can scale it from the bottom. Cube is just a hair smaller, so there's those little gaps in between it to give the nice grid pattern. So it's 0.97, and then it's just scaled to 1. And then the geo handle is the thing that actually gets scaled. Let me turn this off here. Here. And then in the construction script, I set the world scale to the offset. So this is what it should be at the start, so that in these controls, you can click one of them, and if you want the offset to be taller or smaller. And then the base scale is what you want it to scale to. So once it's 12, you notice that's floor height right there. So I think all these are at 12, and then this is at 2. And then the interp speed is used. So after you set that, that helps with in the construction script, so you can edit them. And then there's basically two settings on the overlap for this collider here. This collider, I specifically set it to not collide with the pawn. Other than that, it's just a standard collider, because I only want it to activate when this sphere goes over it, not when the actual small player capsule collider goes over it. So that way you can get a cleaner effect instead of like just the one underneath the player moving. And these, assuming it's the player, just sets the scaling variable to be true. And then on the tick, it checks that and it's like, hey, is the scaling variable true? And is it not equal to the scale it's supposed to? Because I don't want to scale things that are already scaled to what they're supposed to. But if those things are true, then go ahead and get the relative scale and then try to interpret it to the base scale. You can use a constant. I thought the standard f-interp looked a little bit better than the constant, and then you just set the scale, and it's really that simple. But it's a really cool effect, and I just wanted to put out the information on if you want to do it yourself,